his weekly radio and web address to blast Congress for adjourning with a lot of work still on the table. The House gavelled out its last vote yesterday afternoon. It is their shortest pre-election session in 50 years. The Senate followed suit, closing out after midnight.
When they skipped town, members of Congress left a whole bunch of proposals sitting on the table. Actions that would create jobs, boost our economy, and strengthen middle-class security. These ideas have been around for months. The American people want to see them passed. But apparently, some members of Congress are more worried about their jobs and their paychecks this campaign season than they are about yours.
Let's bring in the panel. Jessica Taylor of the Rothenberg Political Report, Anna Marie Cox, correspondent for The Guardian, and Jonathan Capehart, MSNBC contributor, also opinion writer for The Washington Post. Good afternoon to all of you.
Hi, Craig.
Jonathan, let me start with you. Before the adjournment, 6 House Democrats wrote a letter to House Speaker John Boehner saying, in part, Democrats do not believe the House should recess this week or at all until we have met our responsibilities to the American people. Our nation can ill afford economic uncertainty that will result from Congress remaining idle for another 6 weeks. The letter didn't do much. Congress convened for fewer days this election year than any of the past 2 presidential election years. Jonathan Capehart, what's the significance of this for the president, given what he said about change in Washington earlier this week?
Well, I mean, what this will do is will make people sort of remind them why they don't like Congress in the first place. This Congress is the least popular in a very long time, and the signatories of that letter are all Democratic leaders within the House minority, former Speaker Nancy Pelosi being the top of the list. So what you see here is a bit of political gamesmanship. Congress, no one's expected Congress to get anything done before Election Day.
Not even the post office. They couldn't save the post office.
No.
Not even a bipartisan agreement on the post office.
No, because then that would, give a victory to President Obama from the Republicans' perspective. But I mean, I don't think anybody should expect anything to have gotten done in an election year, in a presidential election year, and at a time when partisanship is so high.
Anna Marie, Senator Jeff Sessions delivered the weekly radio address for the Republicans. He blamed Democrats for the do-nothing label on Congress. Take a look, take a listen.
They balance their family budgets, only to find out that the United States Senate, under Democrat control, will not even bring a budget plan to the Senate floor. People should know that the Republican-led House, on the other hand, met its obligations. Most significantly, it passed a budget to rescue America from a debt crisis.
Alabama Senator Jeff Sessions there. So we've got each side blaming the other. Who do you think really gets the blame here?
Well, he's right that the Republicans accomplished their objectives because their objective is to rob Obama of re-election. Like, that's what they've said their objective is.
The stated goal by Senator Mitch McConnell. The stated goal.
So maybe they haven't quite achieved that stated goal, but in terms of like what they're trying to do, they've gotten closer to it than the Democrats. That's for sure. The Democrats have not been able to do anything because the Republicans have said that that's their goal. I mean, it's hard to say that staying in session any longer would improve things, though. This is a horrible meal. Do you want seconds? And there's one way to look at it. There's no way that Congress can probably get more unpopular. They'd have to spread diseases and kick babies, in order to get more unpopular. I mean, I'm sure that's coming. Right. There's nothing we're going to be able to say that's going to change this. This seems to be the politics it's heading. I don't know if the American people want to see Congress in session anymore.
Well, that's an interesting perspective. Jessica, I do want to give folks just an idea of what they left on the table. We're going to put it up on the screen here. The Bush-era tax cuts, the automatic budget cuts, the payroll tax cut, the farm bill, and I mentioned the post office. That's one that's near and dear to my heart. My father's been there for 37 years. Do both sides see more power in procrastination?
I mean, you're going to hear Republicans continue to talk about why these things are important on the trail, and Democrats as well. And I think, for instance, the farm bill, Democrats see that as having a particular impact in some of these House and Senate races coming up. and they're going to continue to try to use that. The Bush-era tax cuts, we always expected this was going to be punted until the lame duck session.
Right.
And so I think that this will continue to be an issue both in the presidential race on down and having an impact.
Jonathan, Mitt Romney issued a statement saying in part, I commend the House of Representatives for voting to block an Obama administration rule that would have permitted waivers of the work requirement at the heart of the bipartisan 1996 Welfare Reform Act. Washington Post fact checkers have debunked this welfare attack on President Obama a couple of times now. Why does Mitt Romney keep going down that road?
Because apparently it works well with the people he's hoping will come out and vote for him. I mean, think about it. You know, we're talking about the statement he's put out about the work requirement in welfare. And remember what he was caught on tape saying at that Boca Raton fundraiser back in May, disparaging, belittling 47% of the American people, he says, who voted for President Obama, and who would not be amenable to his message of tax cuts because they're dependent and have no personal responsibility. So, you know, it all follows along in one line. Unfortunately, he has no shame, and as we no shame in, you know, furthering this debunked myth of his. But also remember, during the Tampa convention, during the Republican convention, one of his strategists said at a public meeting with journalists, where he said, fact checkers don't matter.
You know what, guys? I want to get all of you to stand by if you can. Jessica, Anna, and Jonathan. Paul Ryan, as promised, in Orlando, taking a stand.